What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another exciting edition of Profits at Noon. Fred, Johnny, my punctual crowd, great to see both of you. Jack, I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Hal, my man, always great to
How's it
see
going,
you,
everyone?
sir. As always, we fired it up just a minute early. Going to go ahead and get started in just a minute here, guys and gals. Give everybody a chance to trickle in and get settled. Quick shout out if you're joining us over on the simulcast on YouTube. Welcome. Hey, Hal. Anything exciting going on this week? I think Richard mentioned you were traveling last week while I was out. So I hope that was a great trip. Assuming it was a vacation, it was that sort of affair.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Fred, the man, the myth, the legend. We have a couple myths, a couple legends in the house today, including Richard.
Everyone's a man, myth, legend, according to you.
They use the term a little too loosely, I suppose. Back to the grind, huh? Well, I think we're all in that same boat, sir. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it is 1 minute after the hour, folks. It looks like we're still missing a few key players. We'll see if they trickle in as we get things fired up here. So again, welcome everyone. This is Profits at Noon, Ninjacators' new weekly live event. If you are new to these sessions, I'll give you a quick rundown of what to expect. We are live 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, all at noon Eastern time. And the objective here is for us to show you the levels that we are stalking for entry. So we're going to steer you clear of any market traps, news bombs, surprises that could be waiting around the corner to the best of our ability. And then in addition to all this great live analysis, we're giving you what we call our levels to lock. So these are actionable levels you can copy, you can stalk along with us. And then, of course, we do encourage you to join us for the follow-up sessions so we can see how all this plays out in real time. And Hal, as you've pointed out now, this is a great point. Since we're a little ahead of that, that's not going to happen until about 2 p.m. today for the Fed decision there. So we will have some updates after the market reaction tomorrow. So we do encourage everybody, if you can, to jump in with us to close out the week and before we head into the weekend. But all that said, let's go ahead and get today's session fired up. My name is Nate, co-hosting these sessions with our very own King Richard Krugel, the man, the myth, the legend. He is in the house, and he's going to take the reins in just a second here. Couple quick notes as we jump in. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, whether that's here in Zoom, over on YouTube, do not hesitate to fire away in the chat. Richard and I will be more than happy to take a look at whatever is on your mind, and we will not leave this session until everybody's taken care of. So feel free to fire away. And Richard, sir, if you don't mind, would you step in and take the reins and lead today's analysis, sir?
I sure will. Thanks, Nathan, as always, for the great intro. And hello, everyone. Hope you all had a fantastic morning thus far. It's getting a little bit late here, pretty cold. But yeah, lucky to be with you guys today. All right, before we get started, as always, just a quick reminder that all information in today's session is provided for educational purposes only. And it's not an offer or recommendation to trade futures, stocks, options, or Forex. All right, before I do the analysis, just going to disappear off camera for a little while. And as Hal pointed out, we do have the Fed day. So the FOMC statement, as well as the federal funds rate, will be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, just short of 2 hours from now. And then at 2:30 p.m., we have the FOMC press conference. So it could potentially be a volatile time leading into and leading out of these, the federal funds rate. For the indices, probably gold as well. So, yeah, I don't really have too much to update since Monday. The market's sort of been trading a little bit sideways. The ES has, however, retested these previous highs from last week. So this could have potentially been the end of a little correction, or otherwise, if the markets don't like what the Fed's going to be doing today, I think market participants are expecting a 25 basis point rate hike. So potentially that's baked into the market already. Who knows? Unless they give us a surprise, we might see a further decline. So price might still head up from here. Previously hasn't really hit my major median line, this green one sloping to the upside just yet. Doesn't necessarily have to, but quite often, as you've probably seen with my analysis, quite often when price do reach these median lines, they do act as resistance quite often. And in this case, we're still tracking the potential that this could be a third wave that is ending. Potentially ended, maybe we get a decline from here, or potentially one more leg up. All right, so this will be, in my opinion, tracking the ES from, when was this? Only on this sequence to the upside from around the 10th of March as a 1, a 2, and then this impulsive behavior to the upside, still a potential incomplete third wave. All right, so I still think there's some scope to the upside, but you know, sometimes with these impulsive waves, they can really extend quite far. They don't necessarily have to extend towards you know, the normal Fibonacci extensions like 1.618, 1.382, whatever the case might be. They can, in very strong bull markets, extend way further. That being said, cautiously bullish at the moment, up until price potentially reaches this area, unless the market starts selling off today, then we might be seeing this fourth wave correction, which could potentially extend a little deeper than these previous ones that we've seen in the past few months. All right, and then at a later stage, still get a potential another fifth wave to the upside. All right, so we've just got to look here at today's levels to lock. Price has been below today's pivot point, 4,597.5 or 50. And it's sort of been hovering now here at S1 at 45,886, sorry, and a quarter. So potentially still expecting for the next couple of hours sideways sort of movement, and it's just anticipation for that that rate decision to see what's going to happen. So for me, really, in all these markets that we do follow, depends on what direction price moves into today's close. How, you know, the markets or the investors are going to digest the federal funds rate. You know, if we go up from here into the close, that might set the tone for more higher prices coming for the remainder of this week, maybe leading into next week. All right, so not really too much to say. A little bit of sideways movement here on the ES. That being said, the ES has been a bit strong. If you look here at the NASDAQ, still hasn't broken or actually came close to last week's highs. All right, so we had a situation here where obviously price hit this median line that I've shown you previously. We had a very strong move down to the downside. We've tried to move back up to the upside again. Price actually overshot. I'm actually don't know why this pitchfork is not aligned properly here. Let me just have a look quick. I do apologize. Is that because it's locked? No. No idea why it's not moving, but in any case, the NASDAQ is lacking a little bit in strength behind the ES, obviously a different indice, but price has found resistance at a certain area. Actually, I've looked at this earlier. You see this previous area where price overshot this upward sloping median line. We've drawn a ray, or you can call this just a trend line, parallel to one of these angular resistance lines. And we had previous occasions where price had resistance, 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 previous resistance, and also resistance yesterday before we had another decline here. So price being below today's pivot point also on the NASDAQ at 15,670. On the previous candle, reached S1 at 15,605 and has nearly reached S2. So again, same thing here on the NASDAQ. Can't really say much until that rate decision comes out. And again, like Nathan said, we'll recap things tomorrow again to see where these markets are at. Again, I'm looking for direction leading out of that news event or the economic news events into the close today, and that could potentially set the tone for directionally wise for the remainder of the week. Brings me to the Dow. Scrunch up this chart a little bit. Same thing on the Dow. Also got a pitchfork that's been on my chart for quite a long time. Dow's been very, very strong, leading the way to the upside here. We've had a previous occasion where price actually broke above an upper median line, retested it, and is trying to make its way back up to the upside again. Should price continue higher, then I think the upper median line up here, this one dashed one sloping to the upside, which is close to today's second deviation projected range high at around 35,930, also R3, could potentially be a next target that might be achieved over the next few trading sessions. That being said, price has been trading between today's pivot point 35,598 and today's S1 at 35,503, and it's trying to make its way back up again. Again, all these indexes would potentially be affected by today's rate decision, or maybe not. Like I said, maybe the 25 basis points that everyone is expecting could potentially just be, you know, baked into the market already. So priced in, should I say, not baked in. But I do think you guys understand what I mean by that, right? So still bullish, super bullish in all of these markets. But like I said, a special day, the Fed day, we never know, could be fireworks or just a non-event. All right. So potential next target to the upside for the YM could be these levels I just mentioned. Should price continue lower, then today's S2 could potentially be an area of support, which sort of falls in line with this median line where price also previously finds support. All right, that brings me to the Russell. Russell's been slowly grinding its way to the upside. This also, after last week, it hit an upper median line. And you can see this in all of these markets on the Russell, on the NASDAQ, not the YM that much. The ES has not reached that area. So that's why I'm still saying could potentially be sort of a drawing magnet for the ES. But again, I divert what I want to be saying here. But just an example of what happens when price does finally reach these areas, quite often get a strong decline. So this might have just been an ABC with price now leading its way up in some sort of maybe a leading diagonal and then lift off again. Or alternatively, could still be busy with a correction here, right? So price during this decline, he hasn't actually reached one of these median lines to the downside. I drew this box last, I think it was Monday. So it could potentially be an area of support should price move lower. That's also sort of in line with today's S2 at 1960.8. So again, we just have to see how all of these markets react. That being said, price clears this previous candle's high, potentially today's range high. You might see a move towards R2 at 1999.2, sort of in line with today's projected range high as well. So also super bullish on the Russell. Again, we'll have to see and recap tomorrow what happened after the rate decision, right? This brings me to gold. Recently, I drew in what I call a long range pitchfork sloping to the upside. I decided to settle on the standard pitchfork, not a shift pitchfork. So I usually use, quite often I use the shift pitchfork settings on corrections, whereas you do start with a new move to the upside or downside, doesn't matter about the direction. You can quite often, you know, just visually want to see which of these angles, depending on the setting you want to use on a shift pitchfork, or sorry, on a pitchfork itself, where price actually finds support and resistance visually. And we had previous instances where price moved up, retested lower median line, and it just fell short of this median line now again. So again, gold would potentially also be affected today by the rate decision, normally is. Now I've mentioned previously that what I'm seeing here could potentially just be a very large incomplete correction that might still have legs to go around into the 2000s. Maybe even higher. All right, unless price obviously starts melting down here, breaks below this lower median line, then I'll be very happy to say that I'm wrong about it and a correction potentially already ended and that the next leg lower has started. That being said, just looking at the sequence here to the upside, I'm currently thinking that we've seen a leading diagonal here, expanded flat for a 2. So that was a 1, potentially a 2. Then 5 waves for 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and not this high here because I'm thinking that this might have been expanded flat as well for a 4, and price now potentially heading for a 5th. Then a correction lower, and then another move back to the upside potentially. All right, so I don't think from a sequence perspective that this is actually done. Maybe wave 1, maybe wave 2. 3, 4, and 5. One reason why I'm thinking that this was potentially a minor 4th wave decline as an expanded flat, starting from here actually, is because your C waves or expanded flats are quite aggressive quite often. Your C waves also extend much lower than the end of your A wave, and your B waves quite often fall in line with the start of where the correction started from, and then you get another move to the upside. So if this was a wave 1, this was wave 2, this was wave 3, and price now building its way up. There's also another, how can I say, let me just get that right quickly for you. A characteristic of where fourth waves typically end. They normally retrace 38.2% of measured from your second wave low, in this case going to the upside, to your third wave high, right? Whether you measure it there or this is your third wave doesn't really matter. You can see that price actually tested 38.2% around about 90.57.8 level, and it's now start making its way back to the upside, which leads me to believe that this is potentially was an expanded flat, very aggressive looking one, potentially end of a minor wave forward, a fifth wave moving back to the upside. Again, might be wrong. Crude oil, gold quite often gets affected by these rate decisions. So might be wrong, might be right. So I think if we see price clear today's R2 at 1977.3 and today's projected range high at 1980.5, that will actually raise the confidence that a fourth wave has indeed ended. All right. So price has, opened above today's pivot point, sort of also hanging sideways for that rate decision. So again, we'll recap things tomorrow and see where prices are at. But like I mentioned, maybe a bit early to say, but could potentially have been the end of a minor fourth with price making its way back up again. Right, and that brings me to crude oil. Also, as you know, price has been stuck for a few months here in a very large sort of range. Could be a bottoming pattern. I'm starting to think that it potentially was an accumulation phase potentially. And then price broke out of that pattern around about, when was this? The 10th, 12th, around the 12th of this month, and then continue higher. When that happened, I drew in the shift pitchfork here, and you can see previous instances where price reached an upper median line resistance, moved up, as recently tested this upward sloping median line over here, the red one. Now remember, Monday I said quite often why I use these pitchforks is they can often give you very good targets to aim for. When price, for example, in this instance, a really good example, breaks above a median line, you look up to the upside, then price could potentially gravitate towards another median. In this case, it breached it perfectly, actually breaches this a little bit, and it's now sort of been knocked sideways and moving a little bit lower. Right, I think on today's crude oil inventory, there was a slight draw as well, but not really much has happened there. I'm still thinking that crude oil could move higher. If you look here at the bigger picture, if this was an accumulation phase of some sort, then I think price could be gunning for these highs that were set here around mid-April, which is around 83.56. Let's call it 84 region. All right, unless price obviously starts melting down here again, and I might be completely wrong about it. But I do think that this idea that this whole thing was corrective in nature might be completely wrong. We might have seen an important bottom here with price now making its way back up to the upside, especially with the Saudis that's been backing this idea that they're going to start, decreasing supply. And they've done this, they mentioned this quite a while back, and now we're starting to see those draws happening in the inventories, and obviously also the reaction with price confirming that moving to the upside. All right, so crude oil also bullish, but with price being at this median line, we might see a correction. Should price move lower, then we could potentially see a move either today, tomorrow, maybe even Friday towards today or to the projected range low, which is also at which is also in line with this median line where it previously found resistance. This is what we quite often, before I end the session, call a zoom of a median line, and you quite often get a retest. Let me just take a snap mode off. At a later stage, support, and then another move back up. Price could just move all the way back up here from here. If it breaks above this upward sloping median line, we're looking up again at the upper one again. So again, same thing with crude as with all these markets I just covered. we'll recap things again tomorrow after the rate decision, see where prices are at. Do we need to start, thinking about different sort of counts and the sequences I've been following? But thus far, the sequence has been working out really well. But maybe we're going to start seeing those corrections in the indices that we've been waiting for. Maybe not. Again, who knows? Funny things have happened in the market. It's all about how investors digest the news and how it's reflected in the actual price action. All right, so that concludes my analysis, guys. Don't really have too much else to add. And yeah, if you've got any questions, shoot away there in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer that for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, as always, Richard, for the valuable insights. And as I always say, seeing the market through your eyes. As Richard just said, if anybody had any questions, anything on your mind at all about anything we've covered today across these 6 markets, the upcoming Fed rate decision here at 2 p.m. and some of the other things Richard mentioned, all these things are on the table. Anything on your mind, please feel free to fire away there in the chat. That goes to our crowd over on YouTube. Another quick shout out to you if you're joining the simulcast. If you'd like to join us in Zoom for future sessions, there is a link in the description beneath that video. Looks like the house is quiet thus far. I'll always note that if you think of anything, any questions, or you need some assistance outside of these sessions, you can always reach out to us after the fact, and we'll be happy to cover it for you.
Yeah, we got Craig in the house tomorrow as well. So, guys, if you like what Craig normally shows us or like to attend some of these free Robot Lab Master sessions, then please do attend tomorrow as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig Hill, the man, the myth, the legend, will be back in the house with us tomorrow. Some potential updates on the Robot Lab portfolios, as well as a live event he'll be putting on your radar. And of course, updates on everything we've covered today, including this Fed rate decision and the market reaction to that. So very much an important session tomorrow, and lots to look forward to as well with Craig Hill in the house. Well, before we head out today, it looks like we may have a shorter session on our hands today. We have a link we're going to share with you in just a second here. If you've joined for any of these recent sessions, we're just making sure everybody has this on their radar.
Yeah, definitely, Harold. We got a crazy day ahead. But who knows? Sometimes there's a lot of anticipation and then nothing really happens. I mean,
Fingers
expected
crossed.
25 basis points might be sort of factored into the market already, but who knows? Who knows? Like I've been saying for a while now, I do think from a sequence perspective that the indices are due for a deeper pullback. But again, they do say that, what's it saying? The markets can be, oh, no, it escapes my mind. No, I'll get it back tomorrow. I can't remember.
Fair enough. And
it's got something to do with the markets can keep on going up and up or down and down longer than you could say solvent or something like that. I can't remember what the actual saying is. But yeah, I do think it's due for a pullback at some stage.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we will
the markets
find out.
can stay irrational longer than you can say solvent. That's the saying.
There you go. That's a good. We'll use that as our parting wisdom today, heading out the door here. But here's that link I mentioned. If you joined the previous sessions, this is just something we want on everyone's radar. It's a new membership that Ninjacators has launched that gives you access to virtually everything within the library of tools, indicators, etc. There's even workshops and strategies, education, pretty much anything you can think of that Ninjacators offers is available inside this Fast Track membership outside of the super premier programs like Robot Lab, the new Signal Trader Lab, things like that. But hang on to that link. We definitely encourage you to check it out if that's something you're interested in. If you want to jump into the sandbox, try a few different tools without committing to buying each of them individually, that's the way to go. Outside of that, of course, our tradition of terrible puns or dad jokes. So we do have a dad joke on deck here as we head out the door. The timing of all this, of the dad jokes, I don't know if it's been mentioned on these broadcasts, but my wife is expecting. So technically I am an expectant father. So the dad joke started almost coincidentally right around that same time.
Great stuff.
So we're excited for that. But here we go. Speaking of my wife, this is also themed loosely after her. She is a nurse. But here we go, everybody. Get ready for today's dad joke coming your way in the chat as well. Did you hear about the nurse who didn't want to become a doctor? I wonder why.
Huh.
The nurse who didn't want to become a doctor.
No idea.
Since we've had our first successful member guess on Monday, I'm still thrilled about that. Someone did get the answer. I'll give everybody just 1 second here in the chat before we drop this terrible pun. Did you hear about the nurse who didn't want to become a doctor? She didn't have the patience. She just didn't have the patience, Richard. It's a sad story.
That's terrible. Man.
Yeah. Just awful. But on par for what we expect here.
Oh, yeah. Definitely on par with what we expect.
Well, and with Craig in the house tomorrow, I have to find an extra special dad joke.
Yeah, he really loves them.
He loves them. Yes, he does. Sometimes he sends me a few just throughout the week. So Craig's a big
whatever.
so we'll make sure we have a great dad joke on deck as we close the week tomorrow with Craig Hill, the man, the myth, the legend, in the house with us tomorrow. And of course, updates to close out the week as we head into the weekend, as well as gauging the market reaction here today. With the Fed rate decision, everything else coming up. So, as mentioned earlier, if you guys have any questions or concerns or anything happens outside of these sessions you want to get in touch, you can send us an email. There's a contact form on our website. There's also a phone number plastered all over that bad boy. There's no shortage of ways to get in touch with us, so don't hesitate to reach out if anything comes up. But in the meantime, just have a great rest of your day. Let's see how we do here at 2 p.m., and then we'll all regroup tomorrow. I hope to see every one of you here at noon Eastern time for the final Profits at Noon session of the week. Awesome, and I think Richard already covered our parting wisdom if you want to reiterate once more.
What was it again? Oh, the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent.
There you go.
But I mean, we've been sort of forecasting, I won't say forecasting, but getting that direction of these markets down and dusted pretty well. So, but like I said, expecting potential pullbacks, when that's going to happen now, later, whatever the case might be in the indices. But yeah, it is Fed day. So let's see what happens and how markets react after that. And like I said, it potentially can give us a clue of what the direction is going to be over the next coming trading sessions. But be careful if you are trading around that time. I'm normally completely flat, leaning into an event like that, and I actually don't really trade that day because quite often you get stuck in ranges, very erratic sort of price behavior. So do be careful if you are trading heading into that event.
Roger that. Well, thank you so much, Richard, again, for all the valuable insights and your time here today. And thank you to everyone that joined us. I see we have Dwayne, Fred, Hal, and Jack still here with us in Zoom. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day over there on YouTube. Thank all of you for joining us as well. We can't wait to be back in the house tomorrow, and we will see you at noon Eastern time with more updates and Craig Hill in the house. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Goodbye.
Awesome stuff. Cheers, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.